It is the benevolent cork tree that zealously watches the meandering of the Coa River. This untamable ballet is also witnessed by the holm oaks and the olive trees. An ethereal harmony characterizes this scenario, which is sundered by the Meseta Central Plateau and the mountainous region of the Portuguese border. Although indomitable, the Coa River does not appear violent, as it gently greets the banks in its inherent route to the Douro. Brought from the south to the north, the region of Ribacoa serves as a stage for an enviable diversity of fauna and flora. Its sumptuosity leads us to ask if it was her who chose the people to live there. Was it the queen of the clans or the vulture of Egypt, the emissary charged with ascertaining the most worthy people to live there? The inaccessible escarpments of this closed valley is the favorite habitat for the griffin, the most abundant prey in this area. But both the rare black stork and the royal eagle felt the same admiration as they watched the arrival of the first man, thirsty and unable to remain indifferent to their desirable geological characteristics. Desirous of copying the magnificence of the natural spectacle, they were inspired by abundant wealth, trying to perpetuate their entrepreneurial trail. The warlike success of the Roman Empire in the Second Punic War foreshadowed the fall of the Carthaginians and awakened the thirsty desire to annex the remaining territorial extension that they gave the name of Hispania. Disciplined soldiers, blessed by the god Mars, were unaware of the beauty of Ribacoa and its brave people who refused to subdue. Warm blood poured into the Iberian plains and plateaus, a stage certainly teased by the blood of the Lusitanian War. The Roman Empire of the West ceased to taste only prosperity and violently collapsed, suffering the invasion of barbarian hordes. The Visigoths vindicated the peninsula, overcoming the remaining opponents, and made Ribacoa their greatest treasure, enchanted by the mirrored irreverence. There was a resilient, fearless, and insurgent people who, by force of destiny or by call of the land, were anchored in the Iberian Peninsula, most because of the similarities with the land from which they were expelled. This scholar and singular people were the Jews, who were forced into enormous atrocities in the preamble of their history because they never disregarded their identity and their faith. The presence of the people of the nation in the Iberian Peninsula is documented and dated in the 3rd century DC. They carried out an enormous commercial dynamism and sagacity in the understanding of the wealth of resources. Sephardic Jews were very responsible for the development of trade, handicrafts, customs, and they've also influenced the linguistical, cultural, and social evolution of the region. A crisis of succession in the Visigoth selective monarchy originated an Islamic military expedition to the peninsula. The Muslim governor was persuaded and assertive in the warlike decision. The Visigoths succumbed to the jihad, and only a part of Asturias in the north escaped the Islamic onslaughts. Muslims then settled on the peninsula and progressively expanded their territorial conquests. The Jewish people were very aggravated and pressured by the Muslims, so they migrated to the north and center of the peninsula, a journey that culminated with the arrival to the beautiful and beloved region of Ribacoa. A fearless and promising winner is born in the Iberian Peninsula. Afonso Henriques fulfilled the vision that cherished its existence and founded the Portuguese kingdom. He immediately recognized talented people, forged alliances, and entrusted laborious Jewish people with the task of populating many of the earliest lands. The Jews were people of the king, and they were active participants in the settlement of the reconquered land. Always devoted to their faith and embedded with the bold spirit that had risen, they helped the pubertal country to be better. There was a crucial and truly conclusive region for the identity of the state being manufactured, and that was the reason why Ribacoa remained peaceful, harnessing the arrival of the most hopeful. The Fural of the region was confirmed in 1297 in the reign of Diniz of Portugal with the Treaty of Alcanisas. He built a huge and powerful fortress with 5 faces in the keep, which provided a superior military efficiency for his time, which he called the Sabugal Castle. In the Sabugal, the trade was promoted and fairs were developed. This was an initiative that also took place in Castelo Mendo in 1281 and in Castelo Rodrigo in 1373. The intensification of the markets again called for the skill and competence of the Jewish people, who were responsible for the rapid development of the culture and economy of the vast region. The Jewish people paid the king a tax, commonly called Judengeld. Besides the tax requirement, there were also countless other restrictions. Neighborhoods dividing the Jewish people from the Christians were created and became known as jewry. The Jewish settlements, or alfamas, did not represent a segregation initiative, nor were they implemented by discrimination, but as an attempt to protect Jews' privacy. Even today, we can see requiems of old jewries. Castelo Rodrigo served as a decorous stage where the Jews walked freely. The smiling men, already longing for the future, walked the streets of the synagogue, where the edifying stones witnessed the melodious songs of a people unsurpassed and attentive to the care of the skins of their women, who were washed in the mikveh in the same building. In Vila Nova de Foscoa, you can still notice the typical constructions in the streets of the Jewish quarter and the sounding synagogue. In the Jewry of Linhares da Beira, the undecided granite sidewalk that develops around the Rua do Passadiço and Rua Direita, as well as the preserved house of the Jew, still speak for those who want to have new eyes and ears instead of collecting new landscapes. The center of Pinhel, one of Beira's favorite places, was also an elected site, reviving the Jewish presence in the Travessa de Santa Maria inside the city walls. In Cidadelle, a stone village known today as the Heel of the World, the Jewish influence is also noted in the engravings on a side street, flattered by cavities that surely reminded the Jews of the heroic fidelity to God by the hero Daniel, who was persecuted twice and cast into a den of lions. Carved into the facade of Lion of Judah's house, you can see the sovereign dove and the man holding his kippah. In the fortified town of Trancoso, the Master's Well is also contemplated. This jewry was once the largest community on the inner border. A typical Jewish house was characterized by its two floors, namely the Soto for commercial practice and the upper floor that was the residence. These architectural features are very evidenced in Guarda's Jewish quarter. Other characteristics were the access doors to the neighborhoods, which were restraints to relations between Christians and Jews. In the Alfama of Ciudad Rodrigo, there will be no bystander that won't be dazzled by the flavescent city decorated by its old buildings. This golden city was also populated by the Jewish community. There is also an old synagogue, now transformed in the Hospital de la Pasión. In the surroundings outside the walls was the cemetery, Beit Kavarot, treasured by the personified symbolism of the slender planted olive trees. The mind was always transported to the Mother Earth, but the body also settled itself with the new house and the comforts of Ribacoa. However, in the vain gloom, adorned with a pitch of depravity, another wicked twilight swept through the nation. An undeserved challenge that only sowed terror in hearts that wanted to be pure and redemptive. A calamitous resolution was formed in the neighboring Spain, and it struck the Jewish people residing in Portugal. The abusive Inquisition clothed itself in hideous robes and indulged in its brutality by pursuing the Jews mercilessly. The Catholic kings were peremptory in their orders: conversion or death. The ruthless Reaper paraded intensely and sadistically. The danger of losing one's life when still unprepared for the encounter with the Creator haunted the prophetic people who had no alternative to the concealed act. It were sad times, where even the suspicion of the streets needed to be deceived, for in the essence of all adversity, a blind eye of cruelty lurked in the night's blackness. The Inquisition forced the resilient Jewish people to lurk and modify many of their habits and customs. Secret cults were engendered to feed the soul and to preserve the Hebrew practices. These rituals were known as Crypto-Judaism. the purified heart sanitized by prayers, which served as delicacies for the spirits descended from such noble and penitent beings, struggled with a secretive practice. Why this trenchant feeling of being forsaken? Why this martyrdom that hides and makes unshakable faiths to be dangerous secrets? The splendorous stars illuminated with their translucent glow, a land also caressed by the river. Jews did not reside there, and ill-fated suspicions vanished as they faded into the dolmen of Malhada Sorda, who, as well as non-speaking nature, would surely have protected and involved the deprecated Jewish community. The ground and walls of this building felt the torments of a resilient people, shuddering to hear the certain prayers that ascended in secret. Overcoming the corrosion of successive seasons that have always subjugated man, now stands as the museum of the secret synagogue of Malhada Sorda. In the country of Almeida, new successors rise up with the lightness of their courage, bringing on their faces the same inviting looks and fearless smiles. They carry in their genetics the virtuous humanity taught by the experiences of their ancestors. Chapter is applauded by the old oak tree. A new glow looms with the invigoration of a community. Ribacoa reconvened its paladins, showing to the world its dazzling past and going to a future worthy of its nature.